Hello and welcome to 11th Legion, a Warhammer podcast. I'm Brothers, I'm joined with my co-hosts Dan and Johnny.
What up?
Yo.
So, we'll start with you, Johnny. What have you been up to? I think last time we recorded, you were prepping for your game against Imperial Guard, weren't you?
I was, yes. And that game went ahead.
And...
I won.
Yes!
Nice!
We didn't make the full 5 rounds because we ran out of time.
Cross your table, though.
No. Got to the end. We got to the end of round 3, but he was using... This is the first time he's ever used Imperial Guard, so it was new army, getting to grips with how it plays and stuff, and I'm still trying to understand how my army works. So there was a lot of working out. But yeah, it went fairly well. Imperial Guard are a difficult army to play against. The way that list was built, he had 5 tanks, I think it was, and I just could not.
They've all got Armour of Contempt now, right?
Yes, they have. So that just, that's upsetting.
Yeah, especially for Tower, because you kind of got nailed with your, is it Bjorkan?
He's
faction?
the Montcar thing as well. That's the one.
So you've lost AP on Montcar and then double dick lost AP on Imperial Guard Armour of Contempt.
So didn't matter if the closest unit was shooting, all I was getting was rerolls, but
you have the armour penetration of a party popper.
Exactly. The only thing that made any sort of dint in his tanks were the broadsides, and I got some lucky shots in with just the flames and burst cannons.
Yeah.
It's just volume did it.
Did you use hammerheads?
I didn't.
Bro!
I would if I had one assembled, but I haven't at the minute.
Could have lent you some.
Could have. Probably would have been a good shout.
Been smashed on the floor, so maybe.
Oh, maybe not.
So what were you packing in your list?
I had two squads of 4-man crisis teams.
Okay.
They were all armed with the same thing: flame and burst cannon, plasma rifle.
Okay.
So the plan, I thought it was going to bring more infantry.
Yeah.
We obviously didn't see the list until we exchanged them, so I was expecting more infantry. That's why I went with the flames and burst cannons. But that was my crisis teams. My HQ was Cold Star that had 3 burst cannons on it. And a shield generator. Yeah, it had the regular burst cannon, the advanced burst cannon, and then the signature system burst cannon. So they've all got different profiles.
Jesus.
But one does 6 shots, one does 8 shots, and one does 10 shots.
Oh, God.
So that was a lot of shots. But, he put a few dings in one of the tanks, if I remember properly.
Should think so.
Yeah, so got some good rolls off with them. It just comes down to volume.
Do you think next time for an all-comers list against Sky, you'd have been better just sticking with burst cannons and sacking the flames off?
The Flamers did.
Burst cannons have more range
they do,
against the tanks.
I mean, the Flamers did the job against the infantry well. But knowing that it was tank heavy, if I face them again, I'll probably go for a plasma fusion and burst cannon.
Yeah.
To give more anti-armor.
So what was it running? 3 squads of 10 infantry?
Yep. Each one had a commander guy with them.
To do first rank fire, second rank
yes.
fire.
Yeah. There was a squad of Ogrins that were based in a Chimera.
Ooh.
Okay.
A Basilisk that was sat at the back of the board.
Yep.
And the thing with that is the indirect fire rules don't affect Imperial Guard.
Yeah.
So the line of sight rules, he doesn't get a -1 to hit.
And you don't get the
pluses
to the save and all of that jazz.
Yeah, so that Basilisk was quite nasty as well. It's got some mean...
What would you say in his armour did the most damage to you if you was to give an MVP award to a unit?
It's difficult to say. He did have a tank. I think it was one of the Lehman Russers with a demolisher cannon. I think it is. That hits hard. That hits very hard. But then his...
Back in the day, was that large template strength 10? Back in the day, templates?
Yeah, I think it might have been.
Yeah, that was that. He called it the dustbin launcher. I think that's probably an accurate term for it. But one of the other Lehman Russers had a Gatling cannon sort of thing.
20 odd shots.
20 odd shots, but then it got double the amount of shots because if they move less than half the range, they get to
double shots.
Double shots.
Their turret weapon, don't they?
Yeah, that was lethal. Just the amount of dice on the table when that Gatling gun fired was.
So, other than the Ogrins, it might have been the time to actually take Tau into melee.
Well, I did.
One and only time.
I did charge with one of my units of crisis suits at one of his commander guys who had fallen back. I wiped out the squad of infantry that was stood in front of him.
Yeah.
And he dropped into a ruin. So I thought, you know what? It's in cover because it's in a ruin. I'm going to just jump in with my crisis suits and try and mash him up.
Yeah, yeah.
But he fought quite well. Like, he held off those 4 crisis suits for a round.
I mean, you are like hitting on 5.
Well, yeah, but it's one guy against 4 mechs.
You need Shazo Smasher.
Yeah, if one of them had the
Jump
Onager
in there
gauntlet,
with the Onager gauntlet and fist someone to death.
he would have been a red stain on the wall.
What in your army? Did anything in your army do particularly well? The same kind of MVP question.
I think overall, it was sort of evenly distributed. I mean, I can't really say much for the...
My whole arm is wonderful.
No. Just they all did something useful. The marker drones are obviously markering up. It's what a standard.
Mark Jones be markering.
The Riptide did well. It didn't really do much damage. It didn't get many shots off, but it posed that much of a threat on the board that it soaked up a whole round of shooting.
People lose their minds over Riptides.
Yeah, I mean, it's 14 wounds, and I did advance it down the middle of the table.
Did you overcharge shields?
I did.
Nice.
I did. So he, but still, I think the majority of his army did shoot at it, and it took all those shots.
Well, that's good though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it means those shots aren't going on the rest of your army.
Exactly.
And it's pouring it onto the thing in your army that is the hardest thing to kill.
Yes. So
I don't know if he'll do that again. That's a
No.
bit of a tactical oversight.
I did say that was like the one time you can sort of get away with that.
Yeah.
But it did let my crisis teams move up the sides of the board, kind of sit on objectives, and
So kill count was pretty similar.
yes,
You did a lot of wounds between you.
yeah. I think we weren't far off each other, to be fair.
But victory points, you smoked him.
Yes. I think that came down to secondaries.
Go on.
I got on the objectives early.
Yeah.
But the main one of the secondaries I took was assassinate, and each of the marshals counted as character. 2 of the tanks counted as characters, so I was dropping quite a few of them. Like
Jeez.
That's a lot of characters.
The first 2
That's a lot
tanks
of
that I
character.
destroyed were the character ones, and they're the ones with the better weapons.
Is the vehicle blowing up secondary objective in the same category as character killing?
I believe it is.
Yes.
Otherwise, that would be super dangerous because you just get double points.
Yeah.
Because they're a vehicle and a character.
Yeah. But yeah, they're in the
Makes
same
sense.
category, but I thought I've not really got the firepower to deal with 5-6 tanks. But he had guys on foot, so I thought assassinate would be a good shout.
Yeah.
When you come back round to play him again in the second half of the tournament,
Yep.
based on what happened in that game, are there any key changes you think you'd make to your force? Assuming he plays a similar kind of army.
And bearing in mind that the next round we're doing the Nephillim missions, not Necromunda, so you're going to have your CP limitations if you want traits and relics and things.
I would probably, like I already said, drop the flamers.
Yeah.
Because against infantry they're good, but I think he's going to be running a tank-heavy one.
I think
I know
he's
he's
going to put
I know he's working on a Bane
Blade
Blade or a Shadow Blade or whatever it is.
Shadow Sword.
Shadow
Oh,
Sword.
it's close, yeah.
Bane Sword, Bane Shadow, something like that.
Shadow. Now's not the time for Bane.
Yeah, I'm just more anti-armor. I think it's going to be a high point, so hopefully I'll have my hammerhead done by then.
Yeah.
If he's running I forgot the name of it already, Shadow Sword, then Hammerhead's only like, what, 130, 135 points?
Something like that.
It's changed after the data slate. Just 2 of them will be like half the points of a Shadow Sword. And
Yeah.
wreck it. Just make sure you have a couple of drones with them to
soak up,
take the shots that are going to be coming their way.
That's it.
And maybe Shadow Smasher.
The Cold Star Commander was quite fun to use. This is the first time I've ever used I've used Cold Star in the past in 8th edition because of the obscene movement speed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in this one, it's got a little ability called High Altitude Maneuvers. So in a round, you can, in the movement phase, you can take him off the board and then bring him in as a reinforcement.
Yeah.
Like at the end of
The
that
movement phase.
or later round. So I thought, I'll give that a pop, see what happens. I dropped him right next to his... he had a Psyker, like a Sanction Psyker as a character as well. I dropped him right next to him just to finish him off as well.
Yes. Could also drop him on an objective, I guess, if things were getting close on victory points.
Yeah.
That was something I was weighing up towards the end of the game. I was like, he had the Basilisk sat at the very back, and I thought, do I bring my commander off and just drop him near that Basilisk and see if he can do something to it?
Yeah.
And even more if you told him with an Odd Gauntlet.
Yeah.
I know you're still going to have to face that 9-inch charge, but
yeah,
even if you don't get the charge that round that you drop him in from reserve, you'll get him the next time around.
And that Basilisk was by itself. So nothing would have been coming to help it.
Yeah. I think historically you've run the Enforcer
I have,
commander, haven't you? So do you prefer the Cold Star now you've tried them both?
It's hard. It's just, I think it depends on what you're up against.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit like do you prefer a fork or a spoon?
Yeah.
Like if you're eating soup, then a spoon. But
yeah. I like the Enforcer because it has the damage reduction.
Yeah.
But the Cold Star obviously has the movement. And I think the Cold Star can have the signature burst cannon, or the advanced burst cannon, which the Enforcer can't equip. So it all depends on how you're building a list, really.
Yeah, fair enough.
Manoeuvrability is always a nice thing to have.
It is.
Whatever armour you use, speed kills in all games, not just 40k.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I still think that using Tau, I think Montkai is still the way to go. Because for that advancing and being able to shoot as normal, and
your game only went on till turn 3. If you've had Cao Yan, you'd have never got.
got to use it now.
Yeah. I mean, if you were going 5 turns though, Kion does get nasty with the exploding and shooting, doesn't it?
It does.
But you've got to make it that far.
Yeah. So, like, if you're keeping a lot of stuff in reserve, maybe to deep strike later on in the game, it's probably worth it.
I'm still of the philosophy that the more damage you do earlier on, the less problems you have to deal with later on.
Yeah.
All right, there, Farsight.
And most of my games don't get to those latter rounds because there's no one left to use it on. What up?
Right, so good victory then.
Good victory.
Nice.
Flawless victory.
Right, what have you been up to then?
Last time we had a podcast, I said some very choice things about Necromunda players. Some words were said by some people in this room that may be interpreted as unkind. Since then, I've been really reading through the Necromunda rulebook and may have changed or softened my opinion somewhat. I no longer think Necromunda is for... I think somebody, not me, somebody said Necromunda is for shits. I've pretty much done an entire 180, so not just softened, I'm like balls deep in Necromunda. Let's go do a Necromunda campaign and move out of our houses and shack up in a hut in the woods for a few weeks and just play Necromunda. I'm still going to stick to my guns that Mordheim's better, because Mordheim is the daddy.
Okay.
Necromunda's like his little son. But it's good. And the recent... God, I always get the name of the book wrong. Is it Perils of the Warp? Warp something or other? Something with perils in the title. I don't know what it's called. There's that many bloody Necromunda, but that is one of the problems of Necromunda, is there's that many books and everything's spread across the book, so you can't just get one book and know everything that you need to know. You kind of, if you want to really get into it and you want to get competitive with it, you've kind of got to buy all of the books, which does yank my chain a little bit. I think you should really be able to just get by on a book or two. Yeah. I feel that you have to keep buying others.
Especially for a game with such a low model count as well.
Because it's essentially a box game, isn't it? You would have thought you'd have everything you need for it in one.
Yeah. And it starts off because you've got the rule book, which gives you the rules, but then actually the gangs have their own books, and then different bits of equipment and stuff are in their own books. So you have to have quite a large library and read a lot of stuff to get your head around everything.
Yeah.
But the thing that's really got me onto Necromunda is whatever... I'm going to call the book Perils of the Warp, even though that may not be the name of it. Someone will know. My big problem with Necromunda was that I didn't really like the idea of using any of the gangs.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying the gangs aren't cool. I'm not saying the models don't look good, because I think the models look good. And they have lots of flavour. Just for whatever stupid reason, in my head, I had a mental block on using a gang. I don't know why, but...
I think it might be because it's associated with Warhammer 40k. I think you're seeing the bigger picture, aren't you? It's like massive armies going to war against each other, and it's like Necromunda's zoomed in on a hive.
Yeah. And it's not like I'm against being a bad guy or being someone who's against the law. I've not always got to play the good guys. Just something about the idea of playing a gang just didn't excite me.
Yeah.
But then in this, perhaps named Perils of the Warp book, they have the rules for using what's called a Venator gang. And basically a Venator gang is rules for making a group out of anything, whatever you want. So it's not got to be like a gang at all. It could be a group of a Kroot hunting party. And you could make the entire kind of box out of Kroot, which is quite cool with some of those new models.
I quite like
have
that
been
idea.
announced. Yeah. You could do it as an Inquisitor and their warband who are active down in the Underhive. Could do it as a rogue trader with their crew, which really opens up then for you to just use whatever models you want to use.
Yeah.
Because a rogue trader might have a Eldar Ranger and a Tau Fire Warrior and the mercenary captain themselves.
Yeah.
I think the idea I'm going to go with, my leading one at the minute, is a little bit like The Purge, is to run a group of big game hunters, high up nobility who like to hunt anything across the stars. And their favourite thing to hunt is man, because they're the most cunning of prey. So I know you've just finished painting me up the guy from the Cursed City box set who's got the rapier and the posh jacket.
Yeah.
So I just imagine him as a very kind of posh guy. Oh, go and hunt these blighters down in the Underhive. Ding dong.
Very suave and baller model. That was,
Yeah, he is. And just the idea of these posh hunters going down there and hunting the gangs and getting involved, I quite like. I just think that the Venator gang now opens the game up to everybody. So even if you don't want to use one of the Necromunda gangs, you can get involved in the game. And potentially it means you've not got to even buy any more models. You can just use models out of your 40k army.
Yeah.
Or it lets you buy individual models you like the look of, even though you'd never ever do an army of those.
Yeah.
Like I really like the Vargard Oberon model from the Necrons.
Yes.
The guy with the big war scythe.
Yeah.
I don't really want to do a Necron army, but I could use that guy as part of a Necromunda gang.
Yeah.
Who's out there looking for artifacts for whatever that Necron HQ is, the one who has the big museum.
Oh, Trazin.
Yeah.
Trazin the Infinite, yeah. And just be a Necron gang working for Trazin, trying to get things for his massive museum.
Yeah.
So yeah, getting quite heavily into wanting to start a Necromunda campaign. And been looking a lot. There's a great website called Yak Tribes,
Yes.
which has loads of Necromunda content on there. It's not official GW supported, but very good, really good information. And anyone who's looking at getting into Necromunda, I'd point them that way.
Yeah, I vaguely remember using it before. I think it's got some built-in functions for monitoring campaigns online and building your gang rosters and stuff. So yeah, it's got a lot of functionality in it.
And I love the idea of anything that's a narrative campaign.
Yeah.
Whether it's 40k, Age of Sigmar, whatever it is. I know our 40k group are kind of playing just a league at the minute, but that's not really my favourite. I like to do something that has story, not just one-off, not just games against everyone to see who's the best.
It's nice to playing games and feel like you're doing it for, like, your army's there for a reason, or your gang's there for a reason, or your group's there for a reason.
And that there's a story and that there's progression, and I like the whole campaign system within Necromunda. How you take over different territories, and depending on the territory type, depends on what kind of bonuses your gang gets. And how you can earn things by doing well in games, you can lose things by doing poorly in games. You can hire, like from Mordheim would call it Dramatis Personae, in Necromunda it's bounty hunters.
Yeah.
And if you have a look at the Forge World bounty hunter models,
some of them are very
wonderful.
Good. Yeah.
There's a big variety, and some of them really capture that classic, grim, dark John Blanche style.
Yes, it is very John Blanche, isn't it? Yeah.
Which I really like. It's really like, it almost feels more classic 40k than 40k does. So anyone who heard the last episode and liked Necromunda and have considered trying to track me down, I'm on your side now. We can be mates. Let's do a Necromunda campaign. Okay, Senor Brothers.
Yes.
What have you been up to in the hobby? Got some very beautiful things on that painting table there.
Yeah, so most of what I've been doing is the Inquisitor models for you that you're using as those models from the Cursed City box, aren't they? There's one that looks like a proper witch hunter.
Yeah. The posh guy with the rapier.
The posh guy, yeah. And
the start of my big game hunter. Oh, you can hear the excitement in my voice. And they look absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
Now, I know the gentleman with the rapier, we've not spoke a lot about painting so far because I suck at it, but he's got a mirror on him.
Yes.
Now, how the hell do you paint plastic to look like a mirror?
I had no idea. I just kind of gave a few things a go. So I mainly used a very light colour of silver. Then got a pot of the Talisol blue, which is a contrast paint, which has got a very, very kind of like crystal clear type of blue. Thinned that down with some glaze medium that I've got. And then just did a few coats of that over it. And because it was very, very thin, it kind of like collected around the edge of the mirror.
Yeah.
It kind of like left the middle that more silvery.
So like more light was hitting it.
And then when it's done, pop a bit of hard coat on it to give it that shine. And it came out better than I expected it to.
It looks fantastic.
And the whole model looks great. So did you use contrast over the rest of the model, or...?
Some bits of it I did.
Oh yeah.
So the fur I used contrast on because I think that goes very well.
Captures well on natural sort of materials.
And for very organic materials, so like fur, hair, and stuff, because it kind of shows lots of different tones.
Yep.
It's a lot easier to do that because his hair is just literally a black Templar over a base, because we've got those kind of like dark tones and the mid tones and the light tones. It looks like I've put a lot more effort into doing that than I actually did.
Well, I noticed when you were part way through painting them, you'd base coated them black.
Yes.
But then you'd picked out elements of them that you'd base coated in white.
Yeah.
Things that aren't actually now white on the model. So what's that about?
That was mainly to prime it for some of the areas that I was going to use the contrast over.
So does the contrast have to go over a special layer?
No, you can pretty much put contrast over anything. When contrast came out, they brought out Wraithbone and Greyseer, which they said were specially formalised. But no,
you said that and you were doing air quotes.
Yeah, no one could see these air quotes. But no, I mean, you can put it over anything. You can put contrast over black as well, which obviously doesn't give you the same like pop. But
do you see anything?
It does, yeah. It gives some of the stronger contrasts, particularly like Ankylian green, which, despite the name, is actually very blue.
Okay.
If you put that over black, it brings it out into like a very, very deep midnight blue kind of colour.
Oh.
I like the same if you use Flesh Tearers red. It kind of like tints it red and stuff. So yeah, you can kind of put contrast over anything.
Put it on my toast.
You can, yeah. Make toast a lovely colour.
Apparently I've got poisoning.
A
shade's dead then? Like shade paint's dead?
No.
So just contrast now? A contrast not just watered down shades?
No, contrasts are thicker than shades.
Oh.
Yeah.
So shades a bit like they're very, very watery, aren't they?
Yeah, so they've kind of got different components in them. So shades are very, very watery. They flow a bit more.
Right.
And they tend to...
Do they gather in recesses more?
Yeah, so they gather in the recesses, and they'll also kind of put a bit of a tint over... If you do it all over the model, they'll put a bit of a tint on the high areas.
Yeah.
So the contrasts are kind of formulated a bit differently. So they're a lot more gloopy, but they dry with a bit more variation in colour. So you kind of get a bit more of a natural highlight with them.
Okay.
So instead of just kind of getting the recesses are dark, you get dark recesses, you get light raised areas, and you kind of get those like mid-tones in between.
Would you, on one piece of a model, would you ever use shade and contrast, or is it pretty much one or the other, depending on what you're trying to achieve?
I think the problem with the paints is Well, it's not a problem actually. It's a good thing. You can use
that shit.
You can use them for anything. So your contrast, you can water it down a little bit and make a really good shade out of. Like putting Black Templar over metal gives it a lot more depth and makes it a lot more darker.
But it keeps
putting Northern oil over it.
But it keeps it sort of shiny, does it? So it gives it like...
Yeah, and like what I've done with the gold on there, if you shade the gold with... I don't know how to pronounce it. Guilliman flesh, which is a contrast paint. It kind of puts a bit more orange into that gold and makes it kind of like a nice burnished gold.
Oh, right.
Rather than a bright yellow gold.
How do you water contrast down, or do you mix it with Lamy and medium?
I think you can water it down, but I tend to put Lamy and medium in it.
It's more of the same consistency as the paint, right?
Yeah, so Lamy medium is a bit more like wash consistency. There's a contrast medium that you can use in contrast that essentially it leaves it as a contrast paint. It just washes out the colour a bit.
Okay.
And then obviously you can make a wash out of anything. You can just really, really thin down the normal paint with a shit ton of water or medium, and it'll function as a wash if there's a particular colour that you want to make.
What would you do if you were trying to get a metallic black look? Would that just be like metal with loads of layers of Black Templar over it, or...?
Yeah, so you probably be looking to maybe try and glaze it up. So you probably want to thin your Black Templar down quite a lot into more of a glaze consistency, which is a lot more watered down than a shade.
Okay.
To just put a very, very light tint on it. Because that will kind of maintain a bit more of the shine in this, I think. Because if you shade with Black Templar, it kind of like makes it a bit more matte.
Yeah.
So you could do that. You can also get, I don't know if GW do them anymore, what they call clear paints, which just kind of like put, they act as more of a filter when you like put them through an airbrush.
All right.
So they're a bit more translucent, so you can get a good metal effect on that. So that what I've done with my Chaos Knights, that kind of like red stripe that I've got.
Yeah.
I've done that with a clear paint.
Did you paint them little models with an airbrush or with a brush?
Painted those with a brush.
Is there like you can only use airbrush on a certain size?
No, I mean there are people out there with insane skill who put airbrush on very, very small models, kind of like models like that size and Space Marine size. They'll paint like the majority of the model with an airbrush, which is just a level of control I don't have.
You don't have much control with anything, to be fair.
No. I couldn't use an airbrush on a Titan. It's a level of control I don't have.
So yeah, that's been the bulk of what I've been up to, and also prepping for my next game, which is going to be against the Imperial Guard.
Oh, there you go, easy peasy.
Yeah, no.
Who are you running again? Oh yeah, Knights. You struggle, man. You struggle to get board control with those Imperial Knights.
Yeah,
Well, the good news is
Johnny beats him, so it can't be that hard.
You're going to be. Wow! You can hear the cogs turning there. That's audible. You can hear that on there. Yeah, the good news is, who were you against? What were you against before? Gene Stealers. Yeah, there's probably less of them.
Definitely less of them with the list he's using. Because we swapped lists already. I probably made a bit of an error. So I know that kind of in our when we set up this campaign, the majority of the group wanted to be able to kind of like change the list from time to time, didn't they? But I didn't really want to tailor my lists all the time because I don't feel like it's a true representation of what the army can do. Like I'm new to the army, I want to like build a list and kind of like see how it performs. And I thought that the Imperial Guard guy would probably just use a similar sort of list. I didn't think he would tailor it too much, so I thought it'll be okay. I'll bring my list. No, he's super tailored that list. He's bringing the Shadow Sword, which is like a Titan killer, which upsets me greatly. And all his big gun tanks.
Oh, you need to get into melee, my boy.
Yeah, I've got to survive to get there.
Also, the mission type should be helpful.
It should, yes. That is going to count in my favour because we're playing. What's it called?
I can't remember the name of it. It's the one where all the objectives. It's from the Necromunda book. It's the one where all the objectives are in the middle. Yes. So you can't just keep a gun line sat at the back on your objectives. You need to be in the middle to make it count.
Yeah.
So you might get tabled, but you still might win.
5 objectives in no man's land. I think I'm.
So,
sorry. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, so getting to the objectives would probably work in your favour because, like, against me, he advanced slowly to maintain that
because he wants that
twice shooting
thing. Yeah,
he's going to have to potentially forgo that to be able to get to the objectives before you do.
Yeah, because we have quite
scouring is the mission.
Yes, that's the one. We have quite big deployment zones on that because I think the deployment zones are only 18 inches apart.
Okay. Oh, he'll be fine.
So I think I'm just going to have to play.
Go up front and run over there and kick him in the dick.
I expect he's probably going to target my big close combat knight and have it turn 1, especially because he's got the shadow sword. But then I should be able to get in.
So if you can
really mess stuff up.
If you think that's the strategy he's going to go for, are you going to deploy it any differently to like maybe draw him out to attack that knight or to take advantage
unless
of that?
The table that we're on has scenery that's big enough to actually hide him.
Just build a wall on there. Take some bricks with you.
You're all right, Donald. Mexico will pay.
Because the knights are too big to benefit from obscuring.
Right.
So the only way I'd be able to do it is if I could actually block line of sight.
Take some bricks with you.
Just put some bricks on the table.
Yeah, just put some bricks on the table.
Build my own scenery.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think if I can weather that first round of him shooting, then I can get in and start to at least give him some things to think about why I rack up some points early on, and then
you could do with getting turn initiative, eh?
I could, yeah.
So you only suffer 1 round.
That's the dream right there.
You're always going to have to play against guards sooner or later.
Yeah.
I think the mission it's fallen on is the best you could hope for against guard.
Because it's got to force him to come to me, yeah.
Or he can sit back and shoot you, but if you just start racking up those points early, then the shooting might not be enough.
No, because he's not going to table me in like the first 2 turns. It's going to take maybe 4 turns.
At least 3 in my experience.
Yeah. I think with the guns he's packing, it's probably going to take at least 4 for him to wipe everything off if he really focused down on them.
How do you think he'll do with the secondary objectives as well? Because there isn't one specifically for destroying Titans.
So Bring It Down is destroying vehicles. And
you'll be taking that as well.
Yeah, I give up the full points on that.
You've still got your leadership tricks though, right? When his tanks suffer from that.
Yeah, potentially. So if I can get them in aura range from turn 2, I can make him take a leadership test, or I'll have to shoot at the closest thing. So potentially, I might be able to kind of like trick him out into having to focus on a little knight that I'm prepared to throw away.
Sacrificing something else.
There's nothing you can do to make him flee. Make his tanks flee.
No, unfortunately not. His infantry are just going to get shredded and run away. That's going to be fine. I just need to get into the tanks, and then I'll have them.
If he's smart, he'll spread him across the length of his deployment zone to force you to have to focus on going after 1 or 2 at the expense of the others. It might not do though, and it depends on how the scenery is set down.
Yeah, it does.
So sorry, I'm interrupting you again.
So when I was making my list, I was like, there isn't like an anti-tank knight that I was like thinking about testing out. Anyway, but I was like, well, I don't just want to like tailor to go against guard. I want to see. I've only done like 2 games.
Okay.
I just want to see how these models actually perform.
You like your normal weapons that you'd equip them with,
but now I'm regretting it.
Yep. As soon as we said that tailored lists were going to be allowed in the tournament, you should be tailoring your list every time, because you're also not getting a true idea of what your army can do, because you're taking a general all-comers force against a specialised force. Yeah. So it's not giving you a fair assessment of your own ability.
No, I know. I don't like that idea of building skew lists too much.
But if everyone else is
doing
it...
neither, but I'd rather not lose to one because through pride.
I mean, we'll see how it goes. Hopefully, I can still...
I preferred last campaign where you had your list and it had to face against everyone.
I mean, that would make sense.
But I would hate more to lose to someone just because I stuck to a all-comers list and they tailored.
Yeah.
People are going to be tailoring, so I'm going to tailor harder.
Yeah. It's hard to kind of judge a winner in a tournament when everyone can tailor the lists.
Mm.
Well, it's not whoever wins the most.
Yeah, I know, but it's more...
What do you mean?
It's not really... it's kind of like in a tournament, you bring your army that's kind of like you've designed to be a good army.
Yeah.
If you win, it's because you've built a good army and you've played it well.
No, I know, but there was mass resistance to doing that. Yeah.
There was mass resistance.
No point bringing it up now. It is what it is.
Yeah, so...
All those people that resisted and wanted to tailor the lists, I'm going to fucking ruin them. They'll not want to tailor lists in the next campaign, trust me.
So, do you know what else he's bringing to the table apart from the Shadow Bane Blade Sword?
He's got the Shadow Sword.
Bane's Shadow Sword.
He is bringing a Bane Blade, 2 Leman Russers, a Tank Commander and a Leman Russ.
Yep.
And 3 units of infantry. And a on-foot commander, I think.
Mm. You could always smack his carry case out his hand.
Yeah. So it's the main problem is the Shadow Sword because it gets so many bonuses against Titanic units, which our big knights are.
Wait, you say you haven't got any anti-tank, specifically anti-tank weaponry? No. How is Armour Contempt going to affect you as well?
So I've got my little knights are all armed with little Gatling cannons that have got AP2.
Right.
So that'll go to AP1, but the Leman Russers and the Shadow Sword are on the 2-up save.
Yep. So
that'll be 3-up. My Psychic Knight has got a big Strength 10, Damage 3 weapon, but it's only AP1.
Mm-hmm.
But if I roll 6s to wound, it does 3 mortals in addition. So I'm kind of hoping to spike some good rolls.
Yeah.
Or to be honest, I'm probably not going to shoot the Shadow Sword because I'm not going to be able to take it out in a couple of rounds of shooting. I think probably the best to focus on his little tanks, and if I can get a couple of little knights or my big knight into combat with it, like I'll destroy it.
Like,
it's Thunder Strike Gauntlet. What's the Chaos version called? Warp Gauntlet or whatever it is, doing 8 damage.
Nice.
That'll go if I can get into it. And if I don't get into it, but I can wreck the rest of his tanks, he can't take the objectives.
Can't be everywhere,
at least.
So by the time of the next pod, we'll know what the result is.
Yes. And
shall we make predictions, Johnny? What do you think? Bradders will win or lose?
Tough one. I think you're going to lose.
Oh
wow!
I speak to that.
Sorry.
Betrayal.
Just to twist it, how many victory points do you think he's going to lose by?
I don't think it'll be many. I think it'll be within 10. I think it'll be close, but I think that Shadow Sword is gonna, whatever it's called. Is it Shadow Sword?
It is Shadow Sword.
It is Shadow Sword.
There you go.
I think that's gonna.
What army are you playing against?
I'm against Space Marines of the Ultramarine.
Bradders, do you think Johnny's going to win or lose? Don't just say lose because you're fucking spiteful either.
What points are you doing?
1,500, I believe.
So now you've played them a couple of times, haven't you? At 1K,
yeah, I've lost both.
Lost, but you've had a couple of wins since then.
Yeah, but
so I think you're riding high on confidence, and
it'll come crashing down.
Had a couple of losses since then,
right,
hasn't he? So
are you working on this whole form thing?
Some would say he had a confident, shattering loss. A loss that made him reconsider not just his army, but his place in this world and his very manhood itself.
I think you'll win it, actually.
Really?
Yeah, because...
thanks, do you feel like an asshole now, saying he's going to lose? Good.
Because all the objectives are in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the speed to get on them, shoot him for a couple of rounds, and then withdraw off if it gets too hairy.
Yeah.
How many victory points do you think Johnny's going to win by?
I think it might be... Well... I think it's going to be all or nothing, actually. I think if you win, you're going to win quite a lot.
Okay.
If you do end up losing, you'll lose by quite a lot. I don't think it's going to be close. I think you're either going to
go one way or the other.
you're going to get wrecked.
Okay, no, that's fair. As a caveat, the one thing I would say about your game, it does depend if you get turn 1. It does depend if you get turn 1.
You've been a dickhead.
I won't get into combat turn 1.
No.
But it's how many rounds of shooting.
Yeah, you have to go through.
Understand.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I've made a little note of those, so we'll see if you're correct.
What's your prediction then, Dan? What
for you two or for me?
I
think you can guess what my prediction is for myself.
Gonna win.
Earth-shattering.
What are you
against Nid, so not the easiest. But
and your
custodies.
So yeah, you'll have a hard time hurting you.
Earth-shattering victory. Me win by 30 victory points.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
Have you swapped lists yet?
That's brave.
Have you swapped lists yet, or do you know?
I'm not swapping lists. He'll find out.
You'll find out when he's there.
He'll find out when he's taking his models off the board and he's asking, "What did that?" I'm like, "Don't you worry about it, son." Swap lists like a cook. Don't know where you've got this swapping list mumbo jumbo from. Don't worry about my list after we've played. Your games, I think. I think Bradders' game will depend on the secondaries. You're both obviously going to bring it down. You've got a better chance of getting the primary objectives early game, but I think you're going to struggle to have the longevity stay till the end of the game.
Yeah.
You don't have many units for board control, which is always a problem with your knights, and you're going to have to sacrifice some things to keep other things alive, which means you're going to struggle even more with board control.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what other secondaries you're going to be able to pick to do damage to him. Maybe psychic interrogation, but then you're going to have to sacrifice to him one of his psychic powers. You're not likely going to get engaged on all fronts or anything this time because you've got to be in all the quarters. Maybe go for grind them down if that's a different section, but I'm not confident there are going to be many rounds where you kill more units of his than he does of yours.
It's probably got to be grind them down or no prisoners, I think.
You've got a tough match. You've got a tough matchup.
And it depends if your game actually makes it to round 5 or finishes on round 3 like Johnny's did. If it finishes on round 3, then I definitely predict you will win.
That would be nice, wouldn't
so
it?
maybe you should just turn up late for the game by 2 hours. Like, oh yeah, I'm caught in crazy traffic. I took a wrong turn and I'm in Cardiff.
That's not why ours only got to turn 3. We both arrived at the same time.
Yeah, sure, Chief. You against the Marines. I've only played his Marines once, so I've not got a good handle on how good his army is or how good he is as a player.
Yeah, I have learnt a couple of things from the games I have played against. Trying to destroy a squad rather than dividing fire up.
The armour of contempt.
Here is what I will say. You should win it.
Oh, I don't know that.
Not that you should win it, because you should be able to get on the objectives before him. He's going to have to come forwards.
Yep.
Him coming forwards will help you out with flamers to kill his marines.
Yeah.
And you've got the firepower to take out his dreads. You're just going to have to keep an eye on if he has his Blade Guard veterans and his chapter master coming in and mash you up.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to watch out for his chaplain and his librarian, because you've not really got answers for that.
No.
So you should win, but I don't think it will be a whitewash like Brad has predicted. I think your game will be closer than his on victory points. Right.
Excited to see how this goes, man.
What's been going on in the land of GW? Mr. Bradbury first. Heart of Gearbox.
Yes. So one of the kind of previewed it a little bit on the specialist games thing that you're going to talk about in a bit. But since then, they've kind of shown that they are doing a new edition for Warcry. So it's going to be a brand new edition with a brand new starter box.
It's going to be a new rulebook as well?
Yes.
Oh.
Brand new edition, yeah. So it is moving, interestingly, it's moving to Ger as the setting. Because Warcry is it's always been focused around...
Chaos.
Yeah, chaos.
Chaos.
Cool, kind of little cults of chaos, but they're...
Trying to win favour.
Yeah, kind of like minor cults. So they worship the Chaos Gods in like different forms.
Yep.
Rather than just like full on being like, oh, I'm a corn worshipper.
Mm-hmm.
They worship some sort of god of butchery or something.
Right.
And it was set in the Bloodwind Spoil, which is a Chaos Corrupted part of the All Points in the Mortal Realms.
Right. Which
is basically where Archaon's crew hangs out, and they're basically there to try and impress him and join his army.
Right,
basically.
So they've all turned up and they're like, oh yeah, let's want to join your army. Let's all have a scrap.
But now this new edition's been set in Gear. So the boxes, it's kind of got all the things that you would expect it to have. A core book, rules for the armies. It's got little cards that Warcry has for kind of like setting up your battles, your fighter cards, dice and tokens, things like that. It's got some new terrain with it, which looks quite cool actually. So it's kind of like it's like Deathly Forest kind of vibes on it.
Cool.
It looks cool, but kind of compared to the first edition launch box of Warcry, there doesn't seem to be a lot of
first edition box Warcry had shed loads of terrain.
So much terrain.
It was super good value.
I mean, they've kind of only shown pictures of it. They've not shown what it all looks like on the board. So it might be different when they've shown that. But kind of the preview doesn't suggest that there's a tremendous amount of terrain. And then obviously, 2 new warbands.
Are they both new warbands, are they?
Both brand new warbands, yeah. So you've got the Rotmire Creed, which are a Nurgle.
Who's in the name?
With rot in the name.
Rot in the name.
But they don't look traditionally Nurgle, so they've not got the whole bloated...
One of them looks like Vega from Street Fighter, doesn't he?
Yeah, they've kind of like that more like emancipated, almost like an undeath vibe to them.
Right,
kind of like Swampy Undeath.
Okay.
I've had that in my box as well. It's been this hot weather.
That's fantastic. But they're really cool models, and you could kind of see those models being used outside of that game if you were kind of wanting like Nurgle style cultists.
They'd be good for Necromunda.
Or something in Necromunda, yeah. And then the other warband is Horns of Hashut, which are a bit of a weird one. They have kind of like a bit of a blacksmith's vibe. Bit of armoured, or kind of like where it got hammers and like forge style tools. A lot of them have got strange iron beast man masks.
This gang. Oh, sorry, after you.
No, they should be cool, but I can't deny that I am a little disappointed. Because
people say that when they see Johnny.
Wow,
you're taking a lot of hits
I am
today,
taking
champ,
a lot.
aren't you?
Yeah, this is.
I'm enjoying it.
Of course you are.
Because of it being Horns of Hashut, I thought maybe Chaos Dwarfs were coming
That's
back.
what I was going to say. I'm super excited. Does that mean getting Chaos Dwarfs and Age of Sigmar? New army.
Hashut being the old Chaos Dwarf god in the world.
Back in Warhammer Fantasy.
Yes, Dwarves.
Yes, sir.
They were sick.
And I seem to remember someone official mentioning Chaos Dwarfs in one of the other release days some time ago. That they might be coming to the Mortal Realms. Which would be sick.
It would be, and I kind of thought Horns of Hashut would be the perfect way to kind of like introduce that. Yeah, but it's not. It doesn't even look like there's a single dwarf in the warband. It's all
just blacksmiths.
But at least we know that Hashut has survived the old world, or GW writing team have been lazy AF. Like, oh yeah, we need a fire smith god. And instead of just thinking of a new name, copied, like, oh, Hashut, yeah, that sounds good. I've heard that somewhere before.
Yeah.
Like, you goddamn youngsters don't know anything about Warhammer Fantasy.
I think if you're into Warcry or looking to get into Warcry, it looks, again, like most starter boxes, to be quite a good value. Depending kind of what that terrain looks like set up. But it's going to have everything you need to get into it, and the warbands do look cool. So if you like them, it's probably worth investigating.
Just out of curiosity, what was the first edition of Warcry? What were the warbands in that one?
That was the Iron Golems, which are the kind of like tanked up guys in loads of armour.
Oh yeah.
And the Untamed Beasts.
Okay.
which were kind of like feral barbarian types, and they had some like animal, not animal friends. Yeah, but some beasts with them that they used. And then they obviously bought a bunch of different warbands out.
Sort of incorporated a few of the Age of Sigmar armies into that, haven't they, with the warbands?
You can use your Age of Sigmar models as a warband.
And you can use the Warcry models in Age of Sigmar as well, yeah?
Yes, yeah. Okay. All of the warbands...
Necromunda.
All of the warbands can be taken in a Slave Darkness army.
Okay. Cool.
Which brings us on to the kind of all of the previews. This Saturday just gone was the big specialist game preview, although I imagine some people are a little bit knocked off because nothing came for Aeronautica and nothing came for Adeptus Titanicus. So have GW just sacked those off? It seems with Aeronautica in general that there isn't a lot out for it since the game was first announced, which was some time ago. One, are GW washing their hands of Aeronautica? Two, if they are, is that because Battlefleet Gothic is coming, which would be
don't tease me.
Incredible news. There was no news of any of the specialist games coming back. I, as always, thought we might have got a Battlefleet Gothic coming back, Mordheim coming back, or Inquisitor coming back, although I've thought that many times now that really it doesn't surprise me when it's not announced.
Yeah, it's a false hope.
But it kind of sucks for anybody that got into Aeronautica Imperialis because it's really not had any love for some time now. And I know that there is quite a thriving Adeptus Titanicus community all the way from like back in the day. And the fact that's not supported much either kind of sucks for those guys. It sucks when you get into a game that isn't supported. Obviously the big ball drop on that recently was Cursed City last year, which had all kinds of problems with release and people not getting the boxes that they'd paid for. And GW saying this is just the start, there's going to be loads more updates, Cursed City's going to be this big sprawling game, and we're a year on now and nothing.
Yeah.
It seems like they've abandoned the entire Cursed City project, which is shocking considering that they sold out like 2 times over of the original Cursed City box. You'd think they'd find a way to keep milking that cash cow.
Yeah, I mean, they've done a reprint since, haven't they?
Yeah, that's what I meant, like sold out 2 times over.
Was that just to ensure that everyone who placed an order got it?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know. It's impossible
to say. They created this whole subsector of mythos for Age of Sigmar, which would be the whole Cursed City thing. They had a couple of books done on Black Library by C.L. Werner, which were really good and decent to listen to on Audible. The models in the box looked great, good guys and bad guys. They kind of released an Undead book, which really focused on the bad guys from the Cursed City and then done nothing else. And it kind of sometimes makes me feel like now when GW bring out a new boxed game to just wait.
See how long it lasts
is it going to be supported? Unless I think the game is that good at release in its own right that it's worth buying even if nothing else ever comes out for it.
It doesn't feel like Aeronautica has been out for that long.
No, I mean, it's been out for years, hasn't it? Aeronautica's
but it's just like the releases were few and far between, weren't they, really?
Most of the releases have gone via Forge World as well, rather than
and they
from
didn't
GW.
really expand it very quickly because it started off with, what was it, Imperial Navy and Orcs. Then introduced Tau, then introduced Eldar.
It feels a bit like someone internally at GW had a real hard-on for doing Aeronautica, got a big push, got it released, and then they got sacked. And no one else internally really gave a shit about it, so nothing much has happened.
I know. I just think there must be.
It's just my opinion.
Yeah, there's. I think I've said it before. There's games that are like that probably been around a lot longer that do it probably better.
You just want to go play X-Wing.
Yeah, it's a quality game.
But on the stuff that has come out, first off, new Kill Team box, which is exciting, has a Kroot warband in, which, Johnny, I know you're very excited as a Tau player, and they'd be great for Necromunda, because you could do a Kroot warband.
They look incredible.
They do look, all the models do, actually. I really like the Imperial-looking models as well.
So do I.
And if I played Guard, I would be getting them just to put into my Guard army. Yeah. They look really smart. They look meaty, because it looks like they've got like gamazons on and then breastplates and the helmets over the top. And then some of them obviously have like the big breacher shields. I think all of the models in the box are really cool.
Yeah.
I like the idea for being able to play Kill Team on spaceships, like Space Hulk style, or just internally on invading one another's ships, and can see the future of where that would tie into doing a 40k campaign.
Yes, definitely.
With Kill Team tied in. And I like that they kind of mentioned in the release, every box in the upcoming season of Kill Team is thematically linked, exploring the setting of Gallowdark further, allowing you to grow your terrain collection throughout the releases. So I like the idea, a bit like those magazines you got as a kid, where over time of buying the magazines, you'd have enough to build for whatever it was. So you start off with some stuff, and as everything new comes out, you can keep on building your terrain collection, building up, it says, an incredible, that remains to be seen, modular Kill Team board along the way. I quite like the idea of that excitement of being able to keep adding to the terrain, not just new random pieces, but actually a coherent thing.
Modular thing, that's the key word there, isn't it? Modular, you'll be able to use it together. I like the idea, I especially like the idea of it being on a Space Hawk. So it's going to be like confined corridors, and it'll bring a whole different way to play the game.
Yeah, definitely.
It says you'll be able to command a raiding party of Orc commandos or go hunting for relics with a Void-Scarred Corsair team. I think that's all very exciting. Anyone who's playing Kill Team, that's exciting. I still think there are balance problems in Kill Team. I'm not just flogging a dead horse, but I do think, regardless of the rules, the whole set is good for Necromunda, because the models and the scenery both work for it. And I like when you can get something that can be used in more than one thing. Yeah. Like if you had the Kroot Warband, you'd also use them as Kroot in your Tau army. So you kind of get in a lot of value out of what you buy. I'm very keen on whenever that happens.
Something else that might be exciting about that, seeing as there's a big focus on the Space Hawk, it might be that they bring in some sort of Space Hawk game maybe down the line.
That'd be cool. Because they did have that before in this box game.
Yeah, because I mean, I love that Deathwing game.
Yeah.
And just having the idea of a bunch of Terminators.
Playing Deathwing with the boys is a sick way to spend an evening. Even though we are very poor at it. I would not want to do PvP against somebody else, because against the computer on super easy is hard enough. The only problem with the Deathwing computer game is how goddamn dark it is. Even with the brightness turned up on the TV, I can't see a bleeding thing. I'm just praying and spraying, spinning in a circle.
Why do you think I always use a heavy flamer?
Yeah, facts. But then the heavy flamer is the only bright thing. So anyone who stood next to you, like the boys, can't see. They'd like to see even less than they could before. It's just flames. It's almost like you're wearing night vision goggles and a flare's gone off. I'm like blinded in my living room. So outside of Kill Team, Blood Bowl are releasing the Amazon team, or re-releasing the Amazon team, because they've been in the game since back in the day. I don't think that really came as a surprise to anybody. I like the look of the models. They've managed to keep that kind of Aztec-y looking vibe to them. Yeah. A lot of them have like colourful birds' feathers somewhere along their armaments or armour. I think they are, again, balance problems in Blood Bowl still. It seems like there's always been balance problems in Blood Bowl. Some of the teams are just inherently better than other ones, and that really needs to get sorted out. But I'm be interested in a couple of months when the NFL season starts in running a Blood Bowl league
alongside,
kind of in tandem alongside. Because we all here like watching the NFL, but the games are quite long. I could foresee having the NFL on whilst playing Blood Bowl. Then comes the one that I'm the most excited about, although it is for a game that I know jack shit about. The new Hexbane Hunters box, Warhammer Nethermaze, which is a warband for Warhammer Underworld. What the tits is Warhammer Underworld? How is it different to Warcry? Does anybody know?
Yes.
Was that's just the answer to the question? Does anybody know? Yeah.
No, kind of sounds like you're going to make something up right now. No,
it's drastically different.
Drastically.
Oh, an idiot I am.
It's played on I'll just give a quick run through. It's played on a very small board, hex-based board. You have a small warband of maybe up to 5 models. You have decks of cards, which kind of got like power upgrades on it, and a deck of cards for your objectives. And it's kind of a weird combination, but done very well, I think, between like Warhammer Magic the Gathering.
I was going to say, with the index of cards, it's sounding a lot.
It is
very Magic,
kind of like that. So it's like playing your upgrades, and there are those kind of like reaction steps when your opponent does something. You're like, oh, actually, I've got an upgrade card that I can piss you off with. And
why are you looking specifically at
really
me?
like locking eyes with Johnny when you said
really
that?
You off.
Pissing you off. So yeah, it's a very different game to something that GW have done, but I think it runs quite well.
Have you played it?
Yeah.
Who the hell have you played it against?
I played it with Laura a couple of times.
God, she must be thrilled.
She is when she beats me somehow.
Now, if you don't play Warhammer Underworlds, and I'm guessing that that's going to apply to nearly everybody that listens, this set is still incredible for multiple reasons. First off, the models are phenomenal and would be great for Necromunda.
I know what I'm calling this episode.
Within our gaming group, in all seriousness, multiple people have said, I'm going to get that box. I want it for Necromunda. Someone in our game wants it for a Cities of Sigmar army. Some people just want it for painting. Some people want it and don't even know what they're going to use it for yet. Just the models in it are fantastic. I know, Johnny, you said you might pick it up and you don't have any use
just
for
a
them.
beefy guy with an axe wearing like
give him a slaphead with an axe who's
Yeah.
been down the gym, and
that's like
like,
every character I play in any sort of role-playing game.
So that's why it's exciting for me, number one. Number two, why it's exciting is we know from the previous release day that Cities of Sigmar is coming at some point, a re-release of Cities of Sigmar, a new book which should actually be decent, not just something that was spaffed together like the current book.
Yeah.
And hopefully by releasing these, that means witch hunters are going to come back. Witch hunters were in the Empire army, which preceded Cities of Sigmar back in Warhammer Fantasy. Then they took them out for Cities of Sigmar, but hopefully that means they're going to be coming back in. And this, along with Cursed City, would certainly make me think they're coming back, which means got a lot of excitement around the Cities of Sigmar army when it comes along.
Yeah.
And the third reason why it's potentially exciting is it's set in Ulgu, which is the realm of shadow. And I know all of us in Age of Sigmar Reddit threads have been getting excited for some time about the possibility of Shadow Elves being released. So, headed by who I still call Malekith, who in Warhammer Fantasy was head of the Dark Elves. In the Fall of the Old World, he became king of the Elves and now is known as Malerion.
That's right. I can't remember what his name is now.
The son of Marathi. The idea of really sick-looking Shadow Elves coming out, headed by Malerion, would be sick. I mean, potentially, I know we say that it seems that Age of Sigmar doesn't have much push over these last months. But potentially, in an ideal world, if I were in charge, new Cities of Sigmar army coming out, Chaos Dwarfs coming out with all this hash-up ball tickling, and Malerion and the gang coming out all at the same time, give the Fire Slayer boys more than 3 models to fucking play with, and you've got a game that's gonna light my shorts on fire. What a weird saying that is.
They probably need lighting on fire.
Use it with your friends and family, make it a thing, then I'll sound like less of a dickhead. I'm really excited for the box. I do not play Underworlds. With all the games that we play, I'm probably not going to play it anytime soon, but that box is chef's kiss. New release for Necromunda, which is carrying on with this like Ash Waste thing. It's a bike for the Goliath gang, and it looks very cool, very Mad Maxy. Have you seen the pictures of it?
Yes.
It looks like someone took something from Robot Wars.
Yes.
And just plonked a big slaphead on top of it with a mohawk.
Of course.
It's got like
big
a massive fat... Oh yeah, you'll probably buy it and give him an axe and you're all over it. It's got like a big wheel, or that can be turned into like a big mincing disc grinder. Horns and saws at the front. It's a great looking model. Fits in with the idea of Ash Waste, which is a bit kind of Mad Maxy, and exciting for people that have a Goliath warband. And hopefully means that more and more of that stuff's going to be coming out for other warbands to use. It's nice to see they're committed to that specialist game. And that's probably, if we're honest, their main specialist game at the minute. And then it was just the Warcry stuff, which we've already spoke about. So quite a big day of releases. Some exciting things, not just for those specialist games themselves, but the potential ramifications that will have in other games there, the kind of core games.
Yeah.
Johnny, new Angron model.
Oh boy.
There's been some upset on the internet.
Yeah. I mean, so Angron, tragic fall of Angron, manipulated in the Horus Heresy, wasn't he? Like,
poor guy.
Poor guy. He had a rough time, didn't he?
He did.
Had them butcher nails. He didn't really have any choice in like anything that happened to him. But yeah, he joined the Forces of Chaos, and basically became Bloodthirster. And now he's back in 40k, and he is huge, meaty red meat Bloodthirster.
How big is he?
Well, don't know. I'm just talking about the guns. The gun show that he's got going on there. Compared to a regular Bloodthirster,
I'm with you. He
looks like he's pumping iron or roids. One or the other.
Pumping iron roids.
But yeah, it looks incredible model.
There's people been like saying, he just looks like another Bloodthirster. I'm like,
it's
the same picture that I'm looking at.
I know. I mean,
it looks so different.
There are obviously similarities between
they're both
and
Bloodthirsters, so yeah.
Yeah, but I kind of get maybe why some people are bitching a little bit, because kind of Mortarion looks absolutely nothing like a Great Unclean one.
No.
Magnus looks absolutely nothing like a Lord of Change, but
Mortarion didn't become a Great Unclean one, and Magnus didn't become a Lord of Change.
Yeah, like this is the thing. Like Angron surely has given himself over completely to Khorne.
Well, sorry, go on, bro.
No, I mean, if there was any one Primarch that their fall they were going to look and properly embody the god, it was going to be Angron, because he's just a rage-filled monster, which is exactly what Bloodthirsters are, and his model represents that. But he still has enough that reminds you that he's
got
Angron.
Like a humanoid-style jawline, hasn't he? And
the face on him's, I think, just an incredible sculpt. They've managed to make it look like as though Angron's face was metamorphosizing into a Bloodthirster. And even though it's got the size and shape and certainly elements of a Bloodthirster's face, it's still very much Angron's face over the top of it, with the butcher's nails coming out the back of his head.
Yeah. I like how they made his wings quite meaty as well. Like a lot of the normal Bloodthirster's wings are kind of like spindly. Yeah. This is going to be a heavy creature.
It's a thick boy, isn't it?
So he needs like massive wings to do it, and the wings look meaty as well.
And the look on the face and the poses just radiates intimidation and violence.
Like everything about that model is just.
I think, exactly. And I think they've knocked it out of the park with that. I think it looks incredible.
I agree. Model. People, I can get some people might have wanted him to look even more radically different, but the level of bitching that's gone on, I think, is unwarranted.
Yeah,
it's not like it's a shit sculpt. It's not like when they redid Lilith Hesperax and made a new model that was worse than the old model.
No, but it is a great model. I mean, that is definitely pushing me to getting my Horus Heresy done as World Eaters, so I could then also use them as a full World Eater army when that comes out.
Yeah, because there's going to be a World Eater book for 40k, isn't there? Good point. And then you'd have 2 Demon Primarchs on your shelf.
Yes, which would be.
Are you going for the set?
maybe one day.
He lives a life like Slanesh, so he doesn't need to get one of those. He'd just be sexing everywhere. Been doing the fandango here, there, and everywhere. So yeah, vote from us. Good model.
Yeah,
decent model. Looking good. Worth getting involved with if you swing that way.
Now, if it was proper bald, and hadn't 2-handed axe, I'd be getting it.
Proper bald, not fake bald,
not like Bloodthirster bald. Proper bald. I could have a collection of like axe wielding
bald dudes.
Balds. Yeah. Hench bald guys. That'd be my army. You'd be telling me at the game, like, you can't use that. I'd be like, I don't care.
It's so funny because the aesthetic you're going for in a model is the polar opposite of how you look in real life.
Yeah.
Opposites attract, I guess. Right, so outside of GW, Brad, as you've been getting your hands on, getting balls deep on the Nephillim book for 40k.
Yes, I have. So that's the new Grand Tournament book. It's been out for a bit now. Tournaments are starting to use it, and I imagine people have kind of started playing games and started to get used to it. But we've got myself a copy, been through it, to kind of give you guys a rundown on what the main changes are. So, mission-wise, it's very similar to Necromunda in how the missions work.
Different missions, though, right? Or have they just renamed the same missions?
A lot of them are the same. Where we just kind of like rebalance with how the points are distributed, but predominantly the missions themselves are the same or very similar. So the main changes are basically everything else.
Cool, real specific.
Sick roundup. Let's move on. Cheers, brothers.
So the biggest change is how you draw up your armies and get command points.
Right.
So now it's been vastly reduced the amount of command points you get. So you would, in Necromunda and in just standard match play games, you got 12 command points at a 2,000 point strike force game. Now you get 6. So that's been cut in half. You also now no longer get your warlord trait and relic for free when you make your army. You have to pay a command point for each.
You kidding?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, really. So if you want a warlord trait and a relic, you've got to spend 2 command points, and you're already started with 4.
I bet that's going to upset Tyranid players.
Yes.
It's upset enough by the balance data slate. Yeah.
It upsets me a little bit because my Chaos Knights are currently running like double warlord trait on a model, warlord trait on another model, and like 2 or 3 relics. So I can't do that.
No points for you, boy.
The kind of flip side of that is rather than just getting a command point in your command phase, you now get a command point in every command phase.
Okay. Right.
So you'll get one in
your each round you get 2.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you get one in your turn, get one in your opponent's turn.
Right.
And that is good for the game in some ways. It kind of stops those kind of like turns.
Stops alpha strikes.
Yeah, when you just
getting absolutely
spaff it. Like, and when I played that game against the Genestealer Corps, it was like turn 2 or 3. I think like I spent 8 command points and he spent 7 command points.
Yeah.
And we were just like hammering stratagems at each other.
Yeah.
So it's going to prevent the kind of alpha strikes, but also those kind of like alpha defenses where like to just slap in stratagems down, you just can't touch anything of your opponents.
You just have to settle for alpha gameplay, like boy.
I guess with that as well, it just means you've got to be a lot more careful with when you're using stratagems, what stratagems you're using. It means like you're not going to re-roll something every phase.
Everything becomes a lot more. You got to kind of think about that resource that you're spending and whether it's worth it or not. I think the kind of flip side of that, though, is that there are armies that rely quite heavily on the stratagems for damage output or survivability. So they're going to struggle a lot more. The kind of armies where a lot of the strength's built into the data sheets probably going to do very well from it. Those kind of armies that the data sheets are a bit more light on power.
How do you think this is going to work across the balance of the game? Because as you kind of allude to there, some army books have been built that their strength balances out based on the stratagems they've got.
Yeah.
Now they're being hamstrung, whereas armies that are strong based on the data sheets or on the stratagems are not as hamstrung.
Yeah, I can only assume that it's going to kind of balance out in future points updates. Maybe those kind of armies that are struggling will come down in points, or in balanced data slates that can fiddle around with things and bring in insane rules like Armour of Contempt that nobody wanted.
Yeah, hopefully get rid of that.
I'm just thinking, like, does that mean that some of the I know some of the warlord traits let you earn a command point in certain situations, or some abilities, like if someone rolls a 6, you get a command point. If someone spends a command point. If someone rolls a 6, that's not, just made that up. That'd be rad. But no, if like someone spends a stratagem, then you can try and earn a command point from it. So I guess that makes those sorts of abilities more important.
A lot more valuable.
A lot more valuable.
Definitely. And kind of linked to the next point, secondaries have changed a little bit. One of the secondaries linked to this command point bit that I think is now fantastic, psychic interrogation, has been changed. So if the result of your psychic test is more than the lowest leadership of an enemy character within range, you generate a command point.
I don't know why you're looking at me. I play Tau. I have no psychers.
Snap.
So I'm loving that, especially because I've got an aura of reducing leadership.
Damn.
Psychic interrogation is going to be an auto take for me every time.
Nice.
You looking to come in strong at the second half of the campaign then when we swap from Necromunda to Nephillim? Are there any other secondaries that gain you CP or just psychic interrogation?
Or do some of them now stop you from earning CP if you lose the objective in your quarter?
And the mission rules, there are some special quirks to the missions where you can only gain CP if you own your objective or if you own an objective in No Man's Land and things like that. Not in secondaries, no. And I don't think.
That's got to be gnarly.
Yeah. I don't think there are any other secondaries that generate command points.
I'm glad I've got an Inquisitor for my custodies.
Yeah. So secondaries have been redone and rebalanced across the board. The book now contains the secondaries for all of the factions in it.
That's a good
so
idea.
you can see what your opponents.
Are there any new secondaries, or is it just reworking of what was there?
Nothing new, but they have taken a couple out.
Oh, really?
Stranglehold is no longer in there, and that's the one where you had to have more. If you had more objectives than your opponent, you just scored.
Yeah, that one was always balls, because you already get that for primary anyway.
Exactly, yeah. And what was it called? To the last, where you got points for your three
units that remained at the end. I never did that either, so that doesn't affect
for
me.
the 3 highest value?
Yeah.
Ah, all right. Okay.
So they're gone for everybody. Interestingly, some special codex ones kind of have similar equivalents to Stranglehold and to the last. So you can kind of take versions of them. Like my Chaos Knights have one where I get
of course
points for having more. Get 1 point for having more objectives than your opponent, and then bonus points for having other weird bits and things going on.
Guess that makes up for the fact that your Chaos Knight army is going to be smaller.
Yeah, so there are ways to kind of do similar versions of those, but were never as good as those. So now kind of taking those out, it's making people...
Do detachments still cost CP?
Yes.
The same?
They're the same except for super heavy auxiliary detachments. So if your super heavy auxiliary detachment is the same faction as your warlord, you get 3 CP back. So essentially you get it.
Cancels its cost out. So Storm Surge for the town.
Yes, you don't have to pay the command points.
But that wouldn't work for, say, Imperial Knights for Custodes.
No, because they don't have the same faction keyword.
Right.
Patrols and stuff still the first patrol still refunds itself.
Yeah, for your warlord being the patrol battalion and that. But if
your second patrol still costs CP.
It does still cost, and if you're wanting to run specialist detachments like Vanguard detachments or spearheads, you're gonna get shat on command points.
With the less command points up front, that's really gonna have to make people think how badly do they want to use a bunch of heavies or a bunch of elites and not troops.
Yeah.
That's I guess going to push people more to a more standard army composition.
Yeah. Either what is it, combat patrol, or the ones above that?
It's patrol, battalion,
brigade.
And brigade is the big one. I don't know who runs a brigade because you need
like,
so much.
7 troops or something.
Yeah.
Like 6 troops, 2 heavies, 2 flyers.
I think that's more for onslaught missions, isn't it? When you
probably.
Popping 3k.
Yeah.
That's potentially going to be a bugger for me because I run 2 patrol detachments at the minute, and I'm going to have to pay 2 points for a patrol.
2 CPs.
I'm going to have to use 2 of my 6 CP. More if I want to stick with a relic and the warlord trait. And like the warlord trait gets back refunds a CP on a 5+, but then it's going to cost me a CP for the bleeding trait, which in essence makes the trait like a bit worse than it was beforehand. because it has to refund it. It has to refund 1 CP just to get back the cost of itself.
Yeah.
Hopefully, the benefit comes in other people not trying to spaff on me. I don't want to be spaffed on, boys. I don't want to be spaffed on. Not anymore. Hopefully, those days are coming to an end. I like that things have changed because it's going to make things interesting. I know there's that type of player out there, whether it's for 40k or any of the game, who whenever any change comes out, is like, oh, why do they have to keep changing things? Well, if 2 reasons. One, if everything stayed the same, it would be goddamn boring. I like the challenge of something new coming along that I've got to work and rework myself to. And 2, obviously, balance concerns.
Yeah.
If you always keep everything the same and one arm is just inherently better than the others, then many people are going to just buy that army to play them.
Yeah.
And then you're going to get people who, whenever they come up against that army at a tournament, are a bit of a dickhead to the player that's collecting them. It's like, oh, you're just using the Israeli one because of that army.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, every arm's going to have peaks and troughs, aren't they? Like with the data slates and stuff, and they need to
over time.
Over time, yeah.
But something comes out, they start winning all the tournaments. GW actually watches what's going on at third-party tournaments, which is decent, and then alters things. The way they alter things is sometimes poorly judged, but at least they figure it out, and then they can recompensate on the next go around, and it's a new data slate every 3 months. So
I don't expect it to be long until that Armour Contempt rule's binned off.
I don't know if it's led to a massive surge in Imperial victories at tournaments.
No, I don't think it has.
Because none of them
nice to get the Mont Carol back.
None of them were lighting it up at tournaments, were they?
No.
The best Imperial force at tournaments was Custodes, who don't get it. I've not seen enough recent tournament data to know how the latest data slate's affected. Because obviously, pre that data slate, Tyranids were just ripping it up at tournaments.
Oh, yeah. You can still hear the screams of Tyranid players.
It was like one tournament, and the top 3 were all Tyranid players.
Weren't they all the same sort of
It was all the same kind of build,
Leviathan or something.
Using that adapted evolution.
Yeah.
So they've been nerfed. I mean, obviously, no one's ever happy when their army gets nerfed.
No. But overall, it's good for the game.
It's for the good of the game.
Yeah, for the greater good, you could say.
But won't.
Well, I did. You just called me a dweeb.
Damn right.
Weeb, maybe.
Oh, right.
Yeah, that's right. We said it. I think we've probably run out of time to talk about anything else now, because we've got our Wrath and Glory game starting soon. So
We do.
We best stop it there, and next time I'll lore whore and talk about the beginning of the Mortal Realms.
I'm excited for that segment. Yeah,
I made notes and everything. I actually prepared everything else today. I'm just like shooting from the hip, giving completely invalid, uninformed opinions. But last night I was actually doing that little bit of research just before bed. I kind of knew it, but just delving a bit deeper into it and refreshing myself on it, and making sure I don't go too much into the old world, because later podcasts I can just do about the old world at length. But the fiction behind Age of Sigmar is its strongest selling point. It's just they're not using it well enough, which fucks me off. The people who've created the lore have done an incredible job. They just need the team that are executing 40k to be working more on the execution of Age of Sigmar. I think we'll really get something gnarly going. But until next time, everyone, get yourself the Necromunda rulebook and have a read, and we'll start a big campaign at the end of the year with everybody in. Yeah! Thanks for listening, everybody.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.